We're here with Mark Marsolais-Nahwegahbow, and he is the owner and founder of Birch Bark Coffee. He'll be talking to us today about the company, its goals, and what is happening moving forward. Mark, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Mark, I was wondering if you could start off by telling our listeners about why you created Birch Bark Coffee and what the company aims to do.
Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge, put an acknowledgement out there to all my communities across Canada, all the Indigenous people that are suffering from all water advisories. And this is one of the reasons, the purpose why we created Birch Bark Coffee Company. The Birch Bark Coffee Company was, and I'm the founder of this, but really Birch Bark is about everybody and pulling people together. It's about reconciliation and coming to a common goal, a path of good. And one of the things that I really focused on, or we focused on with Birch Bark, was being a social enterprise that really was cause-driven and really had an impact, and I like to call it a pay-it-forward attitude, so that people can feel good about the products. And in this case, it's coffee to make them feel good about the products they're purchasing.
Okay, thank you. Was there a specific moment when you decided that you wanted to do something that would help alleviate the problem with clean drinking water in this country?
Well, I guess like human nature, I mean, like all of us, you read the media and you read the newspapers, you read a lot about a lot of the national crisis situations we have out there. And being First Nations, I knew of the problems. But the more I did the research, boy, I realized really how bad the problem was across Canada. And I as passionate as I am working with Indigenous communities already across Canada, I just said, I got to do something about this. And, to me, water is a fundamental right. And this should have never, ever happened in the first place. And this is 2018. Mm-hmm. And yet we're still trying to fix this problem. The government's trying to fix it. And some of our communities are living in third world conditions, and this is Canada, right?
Mark, some of our listeners may not be familiar with the crisis that is the clean drinking water problem in this country. What do you think they need to know about the problem?
I think that I'll talk a little bit about that, but then I'll explain about water because, again, like myself, you don't, unless you do the research and you really peel back the layers and you see the chemicals that's being put in our water to classify it as being clean. It's frankly, I'm transparent. It's scary. It's really, really scary. And the problems that are happening across our communities range from uranium, radium, mercury, chlorine, microorganisms. E. coli is a big one. And what happens is that all this water has to be treated. And the water has to be treated with a benign chemical called chlorine. That's just one of them. I'm just focusing on this one because this is the big one that's being used quite a lot across Canada. And the chlorine itself is benign, but the problem is that the chlorine, when mixed with organic matter, diluted, creates a byproduct that's 100 times more deadly than chlorine itself. And that's what's cancerous. And people don't seem to realize that, this is the stuff that's in our water. And taking the focus away from a lot of the E. coli and that, the water plants have to treat our water with all these chemicals in order to apparently have clean water. But the water that's brought to the home has the chemicals in it. And we're the human body, we're the filters of all these chemicals. And I can't fix the water plants for my communities because I don't have the money. But what I can do is I can bring clean water right into the home by providing custom-made water purification systems.
When I met with you before, you actually showed me the purification system. I'm wondering if maybe you could explain it a little bit to our listeners so they understand this kind of little but powerful tool.
Yeah. So again, when we started the social enterprise, I really, when I started piecing things together and I had to think about, what was my purpose? What was the purpose of Birch Bark? Where were we going with this? And I I ended up meeting a company called Can-Am Wellness, and they've been in the water industry for about, 40 years. They've built custom water purification systems. They've helped out with flood victims with Red Cross, and so they know their stuff. The time that I met him, I explained to him, I said, my communities have the water issues, and I said, can you help me? So he went on to explain to me about these water purification systems, and they're custom made, and they're all Canadian pieces. There's nothing that's going to fall apart. I made sure that they were all high-end pieces put on these water purification systems, and they're easy to use. And to kick it up a bit, they're washable and biodegradable. So they're compressed carbon, and their purification. I'll just explain this, that they're not filtration systems. They're purification systems, so they're a little bit more high-end, and they're certified. So what happens is that depending on each community has a different problem. So one community like Kittakinzibi is dealing with uranium and radium, which is more extensive, but then we could go up to Curve Lake that's probably just dealing with chlorine. Mm-hmm. But the only way to find this stuff out, what's going on in the wells or in the public systems, the water systems, or off the grid water or the lakes that they're pulling water from, is Birch Bark has to do the testing. We have to test the water. To determine what specific water purification system I have custom built. And I should say that through the set sales of the coffee, I'm traveling across Ontario eventually, and then across Canada, and all these purification systems, I'm installing for free and purchasing for free. Nobody has to pay anything. That's my integrity as a First Nations person giving back to my community.
Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned a few communities, one of which was Curve Lake. And on your website, you're saying that right now Birch Bark is starting with Curve Lake to see how this works. So I was wondering if you could talk to us a bit about the problems Curve Lake is facing and what you're hoping that you can do.
Well, I'll back up a little bit because there's a little bit of protocol to this.
Okay.
And there's a lot of, again, layers to what I'm doing. And there was no rhyme or reason where I was going to start. Mm-hmm. The more and more exposure I got with this, and I'm very humbled by this movement that I've created. People have been reaching out to me from Golden Lake, right across Canada, please come here and help us. And it's kind of surreal. And then when I haven't met with Chief and Council, when I talk about protocol, respectfully and humbly, I have to meet with Chief and Council first to explain and express what I'm doing, and also then meet with the communities to let them know that, I am coming to the community to help out, and is this what you want, and this was what you wish for me to do. But one of the areas that we had looked at, people have reached out to me, community members from Curve Lake, asking me to come out there. They do not have a water plant. Their water is treated with chlorine. I have not tested the water yet. But once I have the meetings that I've set up with Chief and Council, we can go forward and see where we can go with this. But most of the communities, there's probably about 635 nations across Canada. There's probably about 133, 155 in Ontario alone. 3,000 to 5,000 reserves across Canada. 1.6 million people in Canada. The list goes on. So there's a lot of coverage I got to do across Canada. Mm-hmm. And getting back to Curve Lake, roughly about 300 to 700, give or take, people in Curve Lake that are suffering, and it's inexcusable.
I wonder if you can talk about that a little more. So you're saying they're suffering for people who aren't experiencing a clean water crisis. Mm-hmm. How is a day-to-day impacted at Curve Lake for somebody?
Okay. So when I tell you these stories, it's from people that have phoned me and told me the stories. And right now, the water's being shipped in.
Okay.
The plastic water bottles are being brought into the community. When I did my research about the plastic water bottles, there was one community in 2 years, the government spent $2.14 million on shipping in plastic water bottles. Great thought to get the community's water, but consequently, you've just created another problem with our landfills. That's not sustainability. Mm-hmm. That's creating another problem that once we can hopefully fix the water problem in this one community. Now you got to shift over and start fixing the landfills. What do you do with all this plastic water bottles? My message to the government, and I welcome them to come and talk to me, is that I want Birch Bark to be able to create a water trust fund, where all this wastage of money that they're wasting on water bottles is put back into a trust fund, a water trust fund, I'll call it, that when it comes time for these cartridges that are in the certification units, water purification units, that when they have to be changed, that the money that was wasted and put into the trust fund, that they can go back into, the communities can go back in and buy new cartridges for their water purification systems. That is sustainability. And as I mentioned earlier, those cartridges are washable and biodegradable.
So you mentioned that you welcome the government to come talk to you. Do you know if any government officials have tried your coffee?
Well, hopefully they'll reach out to me and
Grab a
tell me
bag.
that, or check me out on Facebook and my social media, or head over to some of the retail stores that are carrying it.
For the people who are buying your coffee, can you break down where the cost of the bag goes?
Yeah, I've just transitioned. This is a big shout out to my roasters now. I've officially announced it. I just got back from Halifax last night, so I'm a little bit groggy, but I just officially announced over there through APTN. Thank you, Angel, and CBC. We announced my partnership or my collaboration with Just Us Roasters out of Halifax, and we've switched over to 12-ounce bags now, smaller bags, and the set proceeds probably, it's about 50 bags now, because I used to have 1 pound bags, but we dropped down to 12-ounce. Will $2 from every bag, will go towards buying one water purification system. So it takes about 50 bags to purchase one water purification system. So if anybody went into the store and bought a purification system off the shelf, these ones are about $299, around $300. I'm getting them for $97, which is great. And there's a 50-year warranty to them, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's from Can-Am Wellness that has the warranty on them. And they are certified.
For people living in Ottawa, where can they go to buy your coffee?
Boy, every week is a new chapter. Ottawa, across Northern Ontario. Just most recently, I went out to Switzerland and Hawaii, and there's some collaboration maybe in Jamaica. It's expanding like crazy, and in Ottawa, good luck finding it. It's going right off the shelf. I mean, what I hear from the retailers is that it's not staying on the shelf longer than 14 days.
So if somebody's able to squeeze in that 14-day window, where are the stores in Ottawa where they could go?
So most recently, in Kittigan-Zibi, which I'm very proud of now, is Birch Bite. Okay. The small cafe restaurant. Big shout out to them for taking it on, and she started brewing the coffee this morning for her customers, and it's going out to Kingston now at Terra Natural Foods. But in Ottawa, you're at Herb and Spices, both of them. Okay. We're at the Metro on Bank Street. We're at the Independent, Oresta, all 3 locations, and there's more coming. I know there's a list of them. I can't keep track of it all. But it's amazing. I'm just a big shout out to everybody right across Ontario. That's really all the retailers and the customers and the followers that are buying the coffee. I'm very, very humbled that you're joining me in this journey.
Mark, you kindly brought some coffee for all of us to enjoy today. And I think we've all in the studio been waiting to do a taste test. Can you tell us a little bit about this coffee that you brought? I know that all of your coffees have names with significant meanings, and they have some rich flavors to them. So can you tell us what we're sipping on today? This
one here is the Indigenous blend. I brought in the espresso roast so it could wake us up this morning.
That's exactly what Aiden and I need.
This is an Ethiopian coffee, and really the cool thing about Just Us is that they're the 3rd largest roasters in Canada. These people are cooperative, and they're iconic in the fair trade certified organic roasting business, and They're the largest ones in the Maritimes, and I have to really thank them, because one of the things they really did with my coffee, with the Birch Bark Coffee, is that they extended, and I didn't know they were doing this, and I'm so humbled by this, is that they extended the coffee to the Indigenous communities. So they deal directly with a lot of these farmers and the producers through SPP, which is a small producers. And they're bringing, so as our communities in Canada have dealt with colonialism and oppression and, treaty rights and land claims, it's no different to the Indigenous communities that are dealing with that now in Guatemala and, in some of the remote areas. So the coffees are coming from Indigenous communities. And it's amazing the lineage, the continuum that comes right to the cup that you're drinking right now is coming from, the Courrier de Bois that we have is Guatemalan. And it's coming right from the descendants of Mayan people. And it's just the story, the message that resonates into this cup we're drinking right now, which is Ethiopian. It's amazing. For me, it's moving. I'm very blessed to be able to offer this to people.
As you mentioned, Mark, there are so many kind of updates and changes with your company every day. Different people are reaching out. For those who kind of want to follow along and see where else they can buy your coffee, how do they follow you?
Social media.
Okay.
I mean, it's not too hard. You just have to punch in www.Birch Bark Coffee Company, and it has all the links there. It's all over Instagram, Facebook. You go into any store, they'll tell you about it. I suggest you pre-book your bags, and we're roasting 4 days a week. So you want to talk about freshness, like your coffee is getting to you, like it's not sitting on the shelf. It is fresh. I'll tell you a story. I was in Herb and Spice the other day, and I actually delivered, a customer wanted her coffee ground. So I went out of my way, went and ground it for her to rush it to her, because I happened to be in Ottawa that day.
Wow.
And as I ran out the store on Bank Street at Herb and Spice, this fella came running out after me. What is that? And I thought I was in trouble or something. And he goes, no. What's the smell of that coffee? He was saying. I said, and then can I share my story with you? Because in communities, our people are storytellers. So I told him the story. And I told him about Birch Bark and what it was about. And he was I think he ended up buying a bag later.
Well, Mark, thank you for taking the time to share your story with us today. We really appreciate it. Mark Marsolais-Nahwegahbow, he owns Birch Bark Coffee, and he is trying to bring clean drinking water across Canada, one cup of coffee at a time. Thanks so much, Mark.
Chi miigwech. Thank you.